Da tror jeg vi kan begynne å tenke på å starte denne Ig Nobel.
Our next Ig Nobel Prize winner, as I mentioned earlier, has come all the way from Sicily tonight. He and his colleagues, they're physicists. They won an Ig Nobel Prize a few years ago for doing some mathematical simulations which indicate that organizations, any kind of human organization, perform better if it promotes people at random. Please welcome Andrea Rapisarda.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening. In these 15 minutes, I'll try to convince you that random strategies are a good thing. And we got this prize in 2010, and working mainly on the Peter principle. So I'll try to explain you. This is the team. This is my colleague Alessandro Pluchino, who is a physicist, and this is Cesare Garofalo, who is a social scientist. And this is our acceptance speech. So the problem is the following. Suppose that you have a hierarchical organization and you have a vacancy in this organization. So who should you put in that position? The common answer is usually that you take the best at the lower level and promote to the higher level. But is this strategy always the best one? Suppose that you have a team and you have a vacancy in the role of a forward player. Would you ever put your best goalkeeper as a forward player? Of course not. But this is what people usually does in management. So, and Peter realized this in the 60s. He wrote a very successful book and then gave the name to this principle because he realized that very often there is no correlation between one level and the other one. So if you promote people, it's not sure that this guy will be as clever as he was, as smart as he was at the lower level. And actually, the principle goes like that every new member in a hierarchical organization climbs the hierarchy until he or she reaches his level of incompetence. So, and in fact, the book is Peter Principle, Why Things Always Go Wrong, and you can imagine why. So what happens, according to Peter, is that people usually are promoted because they are the best at their level, but then they very soon become incompetent. And so when they finish their career, they finish at a level of the minimum of their competence. And there is also a corollary, which is that in time every position tends to be occupied by employees who are incompetent, and all the work is done by employees who are below you. When we started this work, we started for fun, of course, because this book was reprinted in Italian, and we started for fun to try to invent a model to simulate this mechanism and see if this was true. And so we invented this very simple model, a hierarchical group in which there were people, agents, which had an age distributed with a certain Gaussian distribution, with a competence and a responsibility according to the level. And then we imagined two different hypotheses. The common sense one in which you actually maintain your competence with a small random variation, and then the Peter hypothesis, in which every time you promote an employee, you give again, in a random way, a new competence. So, and then there were different strategies that you can adopt. The best, you can promote the best, you can promote the worst, or you can promote, in a random way, or in an alternate way. And of course, you, as a physicist, want to know in a very quantitative way that the efficiency, I want to estimate the efficiency of your organization. So we thought that this could be a very simple way of estimating the efficiency. You sum overall the competence on a level, you multiply by the responsibility, and you normalize. So this is the efficiency of our organization. And what we discovered actually is that it is, as Peter thought it was, it means that if there is no correlation between one level and the other, then when you finish your career, a 3-level career, or 4-level careers, 5 or 6-level career, then you always are in a minimum of your competence. So Peter was right, actually, but then we had to solve also this problem. And so we invented, inspired by many physical examples, we invented this way of random promotions. And we could see here, you see that either in the common sense hypothesis or in the Peter one, that means either if you maintain your competence or if you do not maintain it, if you promote in a random way, you always get an increase in your efficiency, and also in an alternative way. While it's not this way, if one hypothesis or the other is working. So this is our result, which deserved apparently this prize, but although it could seem paradoxical, actually there are many examples, one in physics, for example, stochastic resonance, in which a small noise helps to have a periodic behavior. Or there is another example in game theory, in which if you play two biased games in an alternative way or in a random way, you get a winning strategy. And also in biology, because in natural selection, you have mutual random mutations, which can give you an advantage, and in that case they are maintained. So this random promotion is something that works and has been working for ages, but apparently it seems quite paradoxical in management. So the story goes like that when we start this project and then ended it, we put it online and we went on vacation. But we didn't think that it could stimulate so much noise. In fact, it was immediately noted by several blogs, and also the New York Times reported about it. And there were some papers on popular magazines. And then it was also nominated as one of the most interesting ideas in 2009, just before publication this. And then we got the Nobel Prize in 2010, just after publication. So, but the point is that the paper then became really popular. And we were a bit scared because, was this result robust or was only a particular case? And in fact, we repeated our simulation with different models and with bigger sizes and different topologies of networks, and also giving some small percentage of randomness. But you always see an increase in the efficiency of your organization. So the result is very robust. And then there is a second example. We applied this to politics, and especially to elections. This didn't get the prize up to now. But okay, it goes in the same direction. And actually, we discovered that in order to have a very efficient parliament, you should put, together with elected people, someone who is chosen in a random way from population. This was published, actually. And it's an old story, actually, because... okay. Herodotus, for example, said that Persians, when they had to take a very important decision, first took it when they were drunk. and then they discussed it again when they were not drunk. And if they took the same decision, then this decision was taken in a definite way. So it's a kind of technique which mathematicians and physicists know very well, which is called Monte Carlo method. But in politics, it was used since the beginning. Democracy, when it was born in Athens, there were no parties. I mean, people were chosen just by lot from the population, from all the men which were willing to be in the assembly. And this method continued also in the Renaissance. Many cities were run this way, and Venice, for example, lasted for 500 years in this way, with a mixed method of election and sortition, because it was a way to reduce the power of very rich families. And there are also modern examples. We have in trials public juries, and also Iceland, for example, changed its constitution in a similar way. So, I mean, this is continued, and it has some scientific, actually, base. In fact, we found that you can really improve. This is a way to increase the efficiency of your parliament. I have no time to explain exactly why, but I can answer to some answer. I mean, and we also find a formula that replicates the numerical simulations. But the last thing I want to add is that we apply this also to finance in trying to see if random investments had a benefit also in finance. And actually it is like that. And it has been recently found, for example, by this Cass Consulting, that if you apply in a very long period a random kind of investment, then you perform much better than real experts. This is a serious study. And I have no time to explain in detail, but actually this work of us has been found interesting by some really experts. For example, this Andy Haldane, which is the executive director of the Bank of England. And so the take-home message is that a bit of randomness can really improve our life. Please apply this. Thank you.
Nice. Any random questions? Your choice. Yeah. Yeah, the question from an Ig Nobel Prize winner is, in selecting the Ig Nobel Prizes, one of our traditions is that on the final day when we make our decision, we go out on the street and we select somebody at random to help make the decision. So, yes. More questions?
Well,
could you repeat the question?
Yeah, she's saying that if the person who is promoted knows or not, I mean, if this has any implication. Actually, when we studied this, we didn't take into account any psychological effect. Of course, psychological effect could be important, but actually, the point is that you need to give rewards to those who are smart guy, who do a very good job. But you do not have to change their task. That's the point. So you can increase their salary or give more free time. But if you are good at something, it's better that you continue doing what you are doing because you are the best in that. And then it's much better that you choose in a random way from the others, because you can also discover new talents, for example. People who doesn't know that was good at that task. And then it's a method against corruption and against nepotism, for example. So it's a more democratic. And in fact, for example, concerning politics, election comes from elite. It's not really democracy.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Over there. Yes. Yes. Actually, we have found that, for example, there is a company in Brazil who applies a similar strategy, not exactly what we propose, but a similar one. It means it's called SEMCO, and they actually have a very reduced hierarchy, and they rotate continuously the task of the people. But then another example is Google. In Google, you probably know that employees are paid to spend at least 20% of their time for personal projects. So it's like this kind of bottom-up strategy that they can propose then to the company. And you know how successful is Google. So I think works. And also in science, of course, you have bottom-up strategies. And most of very important discoveries are just by chance.
Andrea Rapisarda.
Thank you.
Thank you.